Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. The book explores a few themes. The sins of the father/mother affecting the child and then generations thereon, and also the experience of Africans living with the aftermath of the slave trade and colonization, sort of like the timeline of the effect of the slave trade on the people that remained in Africa, and then also a timeline of the experience of the people that were enslaved and brought to America. So sort of like two different perspectives on the people that were enslaved and affected by slavery. The book breaks down along two family lines, the Afia-Ocha line and then also the Essie line. The Afia-Ocha line consists of the descendants that remained in Africa. Unfortunately, I haven't read a lot of books by African authors or about everyday African people, so it was interesting and very new to me to read about everyday African life. The mention of fufu, which my family actually eats, even though they're from the West Indies. But I guess, as descendants of African people, I was actually intrigued by that and thought that was pretty cool. But aside from that, it was interesting to read about the traditions of, just everyday life in an African village. Growing up as a child in Africa, the rituals surrounding courtship and marriage, and then also the lives of married people. As the generations of Afia's family progressed, there was a backdrop of taking prisoners of war as slaves in the African sense, which was quite different from the American sense in that the slaves that were taken as prisoner of war were more like servants. So, they cleaned around the house and things of that nature. Not to say that it was a great institution either, but it was quite different from the outright just dehumanization and brutality that the new form of slavery entailed. As the generations progress, we see the family moving along, but also African society moving through these different phases. It starts off around the time that slavery is beginning to take hold, or at least the slave trade is beginning to take hold. Greed and corruption and things of that nature, to just the wholesale kidnapping and selling into slavery of people that they have conflict with, village chiefs just becoming drunk on power and, rum and gold and wealth. The next phase was then slavery is now outlawed. There's no longer a market really for slavery, but the African villages have now been somewhat weakened. The European powers just sort of firmly take root within the countries. And so now they have to deal with this former, I guess you would say, business ally, but now occupying force that has guns and other types of, powerful ammunition and weapons and things like that seeks to no longer work with them on an equal footing. It moves from where the villages are self-ruled and have total authority over themselves to now having to deal with these foreign powers, having colonized them, being colonies. Because I'd seen the progression from the American side through, books and things like that, the history of slavery and then emancipation, Reconstruction and things of that nature, but wasn't quite aware of what that looked like within Africa as far as what the timeline looked like once the slave trade kind of took root, right? I just learned about slaves being taken from Africa and being brought to the Americas, but not really what it looked like back in Africa. The look that it gave into missionaries coming into Africa and not really violently, but more spiritually and from a religious perspective to sort of colonize the Africans in that regard as well. The Essie line consists of the descendants who were enslaved and brought to America. The storyline for that branch of the family was more familiar, largely because in the past I've read more books about the Black experience within the Americas. It weaved through the events that had substantial impact on things that you traditionally learn about in Black history. Each character, each descendant in the American line was sort of tied to a specific time period in the Americas. So Essie was the descendant that was brought to America, right? She represents the original enslaved African. Her daughter then represented that first generation of slaves to be born in America that still had some direct tie back to Africa. But as things moved down the line, and by virtue of the institution of slavery, family members are sold away, families are broken up. There isn't this neat line as you have in the case of the African branch of the family. So the family doesn't quite stay together. There's some lost links and things like that along the way. But the book actually did a really great job of tying it all together. It really worked to sort of explain the precariousness of the family structure of slaves in America. The book touches on the physical struggle to survive the Middle Passage, right? Essie's time spent aboard the slave ship, the confusion and dismay and worry about, well, what's going to become of me, having been torn away from her family, from her parents and her siblings and the village and all of the life that she'd known. There's the struggle for individuals to just survive in slavery, this spirit-breaking, physically breaking institution, but then the virtue of that, meeting other people, forming a connection, having children, and then struggling to keep the family together, which was actually really heartbreaking. Essie's descendants struggle through slavery and then experience emancipation, only to then suffer through a new form of quasi-slavery. Right, the book touches on convict labor and the challenges of being Black and living in the South, heading north for more opportunities, only to find variations of the discrimination and limitations found in the South in the North. The character that migrates then goes on to watch her family break apart. Homegoing is a work of fiction, but it's a good jumping off point for venturing into the history of the Black diaspora. If you're a fan of Roots, you'd probably also enjoy Homegoing. I'd especially recommend the book for young adults or even just adults who are trying to get into reading or get back into reading. The book and chapters are actually quite short, which makes it very easy to pick up the book, read a chapter, and put it down. It's not the kind of book where you have to devote a lot of focused time to it. I thought that Homegoing was actually quite similar in the way that it's structured to Roots by Alex Haley. Both books follow the history of a family from Africa to America. The primary differences being that Homegoing follows two half-sisters, and much of each individual family member's story is told and wrapped up in one chapter. This is the book's gift and the curse. Homegoing reads as a collection of short stories, which makes it a quick and easy read, but I enjoyed the writing so much that I wanted a lot more. None of the chapters felt long enough. I have a habit of counting down chapters as I get closer to the end of a book, and I actually ended up feeling a bit stressed as I got towards the final chapters of this book. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you return to listen to future episodes. For more information about Noire Histoire, visit the Noire Histoire website at noirehistoire.com. There you'll find text, video, and audio for each episode all in one place. Subscribe to the Noire Histoire newsletter to get fresh content delivered straight to your email inbox. You can also subscribe to the Noire Histoire YouTube channel for videos. I also occasionally post videos on Facebook. If you're enjoying the content but would prefer to listen to audio, you can subscribe to the Noire Histoire podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. If you subscribe, please also take a few minutes to rate and review the show in iTunes. Follow Noire Histoire on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, and Google+. Enjoy the rest of your day.